Hey, welcome to Onsolos. Today I'm joined with Mark Kilens. Mark, if you know HubSpot, you know Drift, you know AirMeet, and many other tech companies, you've probably heard of Mark. Mark, thanks for joining me today.
It's great to be with you, Joe.
Thanks. So, what are you up to these days? I'll tell you, I've been mentioning the Solos community to people and communities in general, and everybody keeps saying, you got to talk to Mark, you got to talk to Mark.
Well, I started my own business. It's technically a partnership with Nick Bennett.
All
So
right.
it's two of us, we're not a solopreneur, but hopefully it's going to be more people over time. But it's a media and marketing firm. It's all about helping companies and people, marketers, go-to-market leaders move into a new way of going to market, a people first go-to-market approach, the way we call it and position it. And happy to talk about that. But I think community building is a very big part of that approach, Joe, and happy to talk about that, which is probably related to why you're doing what you're doing, because so much of what you need today to succeed is a tribe, is a community to learn from, to grow with, to get introductions from. So what you're building here is fantastic.
Thanks, man. Same to you. I think we're both starting around the same time. You started doing things a little bit sooner than I, but now I think you've just launched your website recently, and I think that's at what's the domain for that?
Yeah, TACGTM.com. So it's part media, part this membership club and community, and part marketing, go-to-market firm. But yeah, at the end of the day, been at HubSpot for a long time, like you said, a few other companies, and there's definitely this convergence of things from a macro point of view that are putting an immense pressure on any type of business. And then from like a micro point of view, more like, the localized pressure that's getting put on a business from either customers, employees, investors, whatever, which are being obviously affected by macro pressure. It's at a really interesting time. And, there's a few things that are going to create a massive shift in how businesses have to think about generating revenue and retaining that revenue. Probably the biggest one that we're all talking about right now is AI. But there's a lot of other things too. Like we're still feeling COVID right now
Yeah.
in a big way because of interest rates and other economic factors and conditions. So yeah, it's a different decade, that's for sure. From 2010 to 2020, I'd say it was a pretty stable decade, right? I mean, there really wasn't many crazy world events, right? I mean, I guess you
Yeah,
could
and
say
now it feels like a decade's every 6 months.
it's changing faster, right? I'm just thinking back 2010 to 2020. Depending on which way you look at it, I guess the biggest one was maybe like the election of Trump, but like I don't know. I mean, there wasn't like a pandemic, there wasn't a financial crisis, there was a time of kind of interest rates were ticking up, but then they went back down. I don't know. It's strange.
So when you say AI is one of these macro influencers, is there anything you see that's bigger than AI? Like I'm on LinkedIn, you're on LinkedIn, we're on social networks, at least in our tribe of techies and SaaS people and all that. It seems like every post is AI, 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 AI. How much of that's a real thing? How much of that is let's just get our name out there and put AI on it? And how do you see all that impacting just human relationships, I guess? And why does that impact community as well?
I think it's definitely the flavor of the day. So it's gonna calm down, just like how metaverse was the flavor of the day for a little bit, just how like crypto was, blockchain was, right? And all these things will have major outsized impacts probably at some point in the future. Um, I think the thing that really drives AI is data. So I actually look at some interesting things recently around the global creation of data is hockey sticking, like just like and digital data. This is digital data. So more and more data is getting put into the cloud, and that of course is what AI needs to be
Yep.
more powerful, more accurate. Just overall, you could say better, right? So what's the input to AI? It's data, it's these models, it's these algorithms. So there's that. I also think though, like privacy and laws and how people decide to address some of these things might accelerate faster than they had in the past, right? You think about like how long it's taken governments to act on things. It's taken a long time. I don't think governments will wait as long in the future because everything else is accelerating. So there still will be probably a lag, but it's not going to be as great of a lag. But for right now, the flavor of the month, flavor of the day is definitely AI.
Yep. So when you say it's going to change really quick and globally, do you think it's going to change quickly because it is globally? Like there is almost like this AI kind of technology arms race, right? You're talking about instant translation, connecting people faster, the data inputs, the collection. Are you talking about just back end data? Like Zoom, but we're using that to record today. They've recently updated their terms of service, I believe. I'm not sure if that's related to AI, but I do believe there is a privacy clause in there somewhere. And I just assume maybe this has to do with AI. I have no idea. But do you overall feel that how is it going to impact people? Are we going to get credit for our content? Is it going to be just sucked down and like used by these AI aggregators? And again, like our social media network, like Facebook, they take all your data and they sell it. Is that how AI is going to be, or do you think we're going to get a little bit more credit? Is there new technology around that people who are creating content, are they going to be protected, or it's just unknown right now?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, but I studied kind of in the inverse. Like one thing that is not going to grow, and it's actually going to probably decelerate in the next 70 years. It's going to grow a little bit, but then decelerate. Is human population growth globally.
Yep.
So it's gone from like 2 billion to like 8 billion in about 75 years, I think, if I
Yes.
can remember this correctly. And then in the next 75 years, it's going to only grow maybe 2 billion and then potentially start to drop.
Yep.
So that tells me, wait a minute, where am I going to put my bets, right? Like, I think your network and ownership is going to become much more important in the
Yep.
future. So like if you just have a full-time job and you don't have something that you can defensively own in some fashion, I don't know. I think that's going to shift. Right? I think there's going to be this bringing together of what AI helps you do both at the business level, but also at the consumer level, because then you're going to have AIs fighting with one another. Like the AI is going to block this AI from getting in
Right.
front of your face. And then who do you go to? It comes almost like it's just like self-fulfilling thing. It's like, well, you go to the person then, because you start the relationship, the trust building process is in place. The person is going to be probably the thing you turn to more. So I think, I always say the tide goes out, the tide comes in, which is 100% true. AI will necessitate some big changes from a work and skill set standpoints, and just create new things that we can't imagine now. But it also, I think, will put a lot more focus back on your network and having a direct ownership of something that you can defend, because the AI either has validated that you own this thing through blockchain technology and AI, or because there's some new AI out there that we don't even know that's going to be like the digital version of yourself. Like
Yep.
I don't like.
Yeah, we can, is this real right now? We don't know, right? Is this Mark and Joe
Well, yeah,
talking?
you
No,
have
of
to
course
craft
we
it up
know it's
Elon
us.
Musk
But
style, but
but there
yeah.
are things that you're going to need, not too far away, maybe 5 years from now. You just don't know. You're not going to know. But you mentioned blockchain. To a novice, how does that relate? Is that just because it's the structure of the data on the blockchain? Just tell someone who might not know as much as blockchain as you how blockchain and AI integrate in terms of possibly intellectual rights or just knowing where the source of truth might be.
Well, it's just decentralized, validation, if you will,
Yep.
of ownership of something, right? So like, there's not one entity or person saying this is the truth. It's a consensus model, right? Like it's like, hey, this is validated by proof of work, like proof of stake, right? Like, and it's like, hey, this transaction happened on this date, and it wasn't one entity or person that validated that this thing happened, right? So like ownership rights, other things, right? And there's a ledger, if you will, a history of all these things. You go back forever how long and say like on this day and this time, this thing happened between these two things or this group of people, and it's etched in digital stone, if you will,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
So when you think about that, right, there's so many things that we're doing in like a non-digital way that I think should be put onto that kind of system of record, right? And there's a ton of other like use cases, of course, for blockchains, but it's something where like your resume, as an example,
Yep.
right? That is going to be disrupted by blockchains and AI, no doubt.
In what
Because right
way?
now, anyone can bullshit a resume with AI.
Yeah,
And AI is validating the bullshit resume because that those
that's
tools have
right.
already existed. So like, what the heck's the point of that then? I don't know. That's like a circular logic then, you
Yeah,
know? So
right. Tell
I
me
don't know.
some things I know about the AI. Like, I like the color, I like these colors, and this is my favorite thing. Tell me things I'm interested in. It's like, okay, now tell me the finite skills I need for those things I'm interested in. Now tell me what to say, etc. Right? Or publish 5 blog posts around that to make me a subject matter expert. It's like, sure, but then when you
Who
talk
do
to the
you
person, they don't know
trust?
what they're talking about. Who do you trust? Who's
Yeah, who do
real?
you trust?
What's
Like,
real?
trust is the new like most important currency. There's people that are talking about this. Like, trust is the new oil, or data was the new oil. Now trust is the new oil. Like, I mean, trust is so that's where blockchains come in, right? Theoretically,
Yeah.
you trust that more because of the way it has been engineered to validate something. So like it can validate you actually got a degree from this school on this day in this major. You took these classes versus you going to leave that up to a resume to tell you? Like, I don't think so.
Yeah, yeah, and I think you're right with AI as well. It just creates a never-ending, almost. It's the opposite of a void of data and content. It's like it's just the big fill of data and content potentially, and we already have a content issue, just with different media, social media, blogging. I mean, it's just too easy to publish to begin with. If you're talking about making a book 40 years ago, you'd have to go to a publisher, get it distributed, footnoted, etc. And in time since then, digital, right? The internet, anyone could post anything about any subject. And you just had this data explosion. And I think that's already created some problems in terms of what is truth, misinformation, disinformation, what's what, right? So AI is only going to compound that. And I think that's what I'm hearing from you. The interesting thing you said, though, in that was that the AIs will negotiate with each other. Is that like have your bot call my bot, and then it's a never-ending negotiation? You're like, hey, I just got to talk to the person. Is that where you're kind of going on that?
That's most likely definitely going to happen, right? Why
Yeah,
wouldn't that happen? I
right.
mean,
At first, it's a nice shortcut, like a person's talking to the bot, but then it's like, well, you talk to my bot, and it's like a loop almost. Where are we
that's
going?
what I mean. That's what's going to happen, right? Like as soon as like someone builds a tool for people at businesses to deploy email responses using AI, then the AI is just going to be talking to another AI. Like what? I mean, that's useless. So
Measure,
like,
countermeasure.
yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's going to be it's a slippery slope, right? So it's a
Yep.
slippery slope. I think everything will be disrupted by AI. Honestly, I think email will be disrupted. Voice phone calls will be disrupted. Everything will be changed.
You're saying that like you're excited. I mean, that kind of excites me a little bit too. I like disruption. You're a veteran of disruption. I
Yeah, I
think.
mean that's the only way the world. I mean that's one absolute truth, right? I hate talking in absolutes, but change is going to happen.
Yep. And it's like your advice is what? Lean into the change. Just
My
get
advice,
into it.
my advice is lean into studying people, and then yes, they're starting to study people like how AI is affecting them, but like you know, I don't know. I mean, AI right now is still mostly software. Once AI becomes more hardware focused, and it starts to creep into your on your body or in your body, that's when I start to get like even that's when it's like, whoa, well, that's some serious change, you
the
know?
uh the transformational human, is that it? Like just
So
kind of
technically it's already
becoming.
on your body, right? Because you carry around an AI device as your phone. So it's on you. It's not, I don't think many people, I don't know, it'd be interesting thought or like to study like how many people have AI in them, either through like some type of medical device or something else. I don't know, but that will come.
Yeah, and sure, in many cases it will be life-saving, life-changing, and in other cases it may be some kind of enhancement, right? Some kind of
The bad actors, yeah.
who the
Good
heck
actors,
knows,
definitely.
right, yeah, like give me all the answers to the test in my head as I'm whatever walking down the street, and and that's danger, I think, because that I think then could possibly be like measure countermeasure in that same loop, right? People are now like those. We don't know, we just don't know until we see it in the field. And I don't want to be the first to find out with that in me on that level for certain. What about you? Is that something you're like, hey, I can't wait to get the latest mind hack, or are you just like, ah, no, I'll be me for now?
It depends. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, we're so early into all this. Like, I think our kids, like, I have two young kids, like, they're going to see some crazy stuff. Like, I mean, because like, think about it, we're the first, second generation with semiconductors.
Yep.
I mean, so like, we're like you know,
Infancy.
so early on in this entire thing.
It's the first stone in the Stone Age.
Yeah, I mean, this is, stuff that you'll see in 100, 200 years, which is, it's going to be out of control.
So, and you're a tech guy, I'm a tech guy. And when you're talking about, if, I was just at the beach this weekend talking to some folks that I'm friends with, and, AI came up. I didn't really get too into it. But when you're out there talking to people who are not in tech, do you think there's a general awareness of what AI could even be or what it might even currently be among people? Like, the adoption curve, like think about it. Flat screen TVs. I'm old enough to remember hearing it in the 90s. Oh, by 1995, every TV will be a flat screen TV. It took 10 years just for the adoption. AI, it seems like the tech is like a hockey stick in terms of like how quickly the technology can evolve. But the people, like just regular folks who are using stuff, like where are they going to be at in that whole hockey stick?
I mean, I think it just comes down to problems and use cases. I mean, AI is nothing. I mean, it's just like nothing, right? It's like it's an acronym, right? But like, what's the problem and or use cases that AI helps you solve? So flat screen TVs, what did that help you solve? I guess you save some energy, better picture quality, takes up less space. So it solves some problems. It provided some unique new value. So yeah, I mean, there's legitimacy there, right? Like, so like, as long as the AI can actually help solve problems and have real use cases and deliver real value, then yeah, definitely. Like some of the stuff I see now, though, I don't think is going to do that, right? Like, AI to create content, just like if you're using AI to create content, that's not, I don't think, actually going to solve any real problem or create any real value, like either in the short or long term, maybe. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, you're a content expert, and HubSpot Academy, I think, was one of those first things that was one of those things that brought people together through education. I still have my badge on LinkedIn. I got it 10 years ago, and that came right into inbound.org, that came into the hug groups. I mean, it was a very cohesive, comprehensive system, a very comprehensive community. Sure, it's great software, but I think the reason I've been with HubSpot even to this day was the academy and the partner program, support all the human elements there. And it's inspired me to do what I'm doing now. And you're a big part of that. Are you going to be integrating that into your new thing? Let's talk about TAC GTM and like exactly what you're helping with on that and how it's been going so far.
Yeah, I mean, we have a membership experience. It's not free. It's paid. There's two different membership plans you could buy. One's $15 a month. The other one's a little bit more expensive. It's like VIP. But yeah, I mean, I fundamentally believe that having an owned community from a business standpoint is a very important thing for the future. Because again, ownership. Everything is going to revolve around ownership. So the business needs to have an ownership of its customers, of its fans. How do you do that? You build it and you create it in a way that gives you access to them in a direct way. That being said, if you don't build it on your own technology stack, you're still at the mercy of whatever platform you're using. I'm at the mercy of Mighty Networks, for example, for Club PF. But you need to provide, I think, a way for you as a business, as a brand, to create a more deeper relationship with all your buyers and customers. You can't be so focused on just the social networks, the other non-owned communities, content, et cetera, et cetera. You need to find a way to lean into what I'm calling like member-led growth to figure this out. So yeah, I mean, I'm excited about that. I'm excited about this media network that we're building. But yeah, there's a lot of things.
So when you're talking about that ownership, it's everyone in like this is for a company that has a base of customers, right? Like a group of customers already. And it's not just, hey, send the latest blog post or send an email campaign. What you're talking about now is having these people interact. You're guiding these companies on how to have their communities built and have their customers interact with their entire company as a whole. Like, tell me more about how that membership model or that community actually physically works for the people listening.
Well, it's rooted in this point of view. So it's built mostly for marketers and people doing go to market, go to market like activity. So either sales, marketing, or something else, right? So it's very much focused on a little bit persona, but like instead of saying this community or club is built for this type of person, it's based off this belief system that we created, right? So this company first versus people first mindset. So people first, we can unpack that if you want. Versus company first. But fundamentally, going back to what we did at HubSpot, inbound versus outbound, right? It's about like these macro things, these undeniable truths that are necessity to change for people to learn a new way to do something. And we're at this inflection point. AI is one of the 6 reasons we think we're at this inflection point. COVID interest rates, 2 more, content explosion, channel saturation, privacy. Like we've talked about a lot of these actually big things that is necessitating a change for businesses to need to move their go-to-market in a way that's more about how do you build relationships that might turn into partnerships with people and brands that help you get in front of the right audience with the right things, if you will, right? The right offers, the right messaging, the right positioning. So the whole notion is like, how do we educate people about that? And how do we get people to believe in that? Or if they already believe in that, then great, like let's learn together, right? So the whole idea behind Club PF is around a unique point of view and a different way and a new way of doing something that is, mostly geared towards marketers, but anyone who is in a go-to-market operating role will find some value in it. So that's kind of like the thing that brings together people that are looking at it from the outside that want to get more involved. And then if you want to have a real transformation of your business, you bring in TAC to help you actually change your go-to-market to be more people first. So an example of this is moving from a resource center or like a resource dropdown into a one-click, hey, I get all the content, I get all these benefits, I become a member of the brand, and that's it. No more forums, no more anything, right? It's HubSpot Academy. You got everything with one-click sign up. That's it, right? It's Drift Insider, right? So the other thing, I'll just say one last thing. The other thing is, websites are going to be dramatically changed, I hope, in the next 5 to 10 years. I mean, I don't know how they can't be, because if you think about a website, it hasn't changed since 1995. Sure, the multimedia has been a little bit, improved. The design has, right? Because the bandwidth and other things. But fundamentally, a website is a navigation with content delivered in the same way, better designs over time, but nothing has really changed.
I should have templates for those.
That's got to change.
Yeah, well, that's what, before this is what I was doing, is a lot of templates for HubSpot. And you're right, you hit it right on the head. And sometimes it gets frustrating for the people who are the creators on the websites. It's like, wow, I hope the market gets into some more stuff other than a brochure online. But again, it's customer education, all this. So this is a really exciting way to package up how to connect better with people through all the channels. And especially, websites will change. How do you see the websites changing, Mark?
I mean, I don't know exactly. I mean, I have some thoughts. One thought is it's going to become more metaverse. I think actually each website become more of a community. Yeah. Some of this has to do with hardware and software, but they're going to be more personal. They're going to be built one-to-one over time. My hypothesis is people will simplify websites as well. So some websites will go one extreme, way simpler. Some will go way more complicated. Some of this is also going to be dictated based off of what happens to Google, what happens to like organic search and how people find things, right? Once there's a replacement for Google, which in my opinion will eventually inevitably happen, I mean, why create content on your website?
Right.
Like for Google, because a lot of people just create content for Google, not for.
Well, that's what's happening now. Google's answering questions for us. I mean, people are upset about ChatGPT, but how often do you Google search and you just do that little drop down? It never goes to someone's website. It answers it for you, and you don't really get there.
So it goes back to the importance of network and ownership. You need to own something and have the network behind it.
And decentralization, right? Like almost the old.
I wouldn't think decentralization. I would say brands, right? Like brands need to create a relationship.
Independent connection, basically. You're not relying on Google. You're relying on that connection between the entity or the people at a group with the group of people who are doing business with them.
Well, you're relying on more fragmentation, right? So there's a lot of gatekeepers, and then there was a lot of before the internet. There was a lot. Gatekeepers are everywhere, right? It was really hard to do marketing because there was only a few people that had distribution power. The internet gave people a lot more distribution power, but then gatekeepers came in and took away a lot of that. So that's what I'm saying, right?
Yeah, and then it's going out again into fragmentation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think, well, the concept of a website or concept of an address that you own, a concept of a brand or a way to connect a primary point should be a lot more important again.
Yeah. I mean, and you can create distribution leverage. Kip talks about this all the time, CMO of HubSpot, like in really interesting different ways now, because you could have distribution leverage by getting into someone's podcast app, into
Yeah.
their email, into their text messages, into your own app that they download, right? Like, so how you actually get their attention on your phone, which is that's the right now the way you do it as a marketer, has changed, right? So yeah, there's a lot we could just keep unpacking here, but I think
Yeah.
fundamentally websites, yes, are the digital storefront for businesses, and those are going to
And
change.
you're
But like how we actually like find the right audience and keep that audience will become more about building that direct relationship with someone versus trying to rely on these channels that could just be gone one day. I mean, look at Twitter, right? I mean, that's affected a lot of businesses and
sure
brands.
has. Yeah.
So,
And I mean, and really, I think we're talking about more word of mouth, more human connection, and more human interaction to make the brands more sustainable over time, to make the companies more sustainable, make the efforts of the individual more sustainable. How are you helping solos these days? Do you have any solos coming into your communities, or using the go-to-market strategies?
oh yeah. We have a lot of solopreneurs, consultants, or people in between jobs inside of Club PF. We're over 125 members now. But yeah, I mean, they're just trying to figure out how to do this, as a one person, kind of entity for right now. And it goes back to just your network, right? I remember one VIP member I'm working with right now, and they are just trying to start their own business. And I'm like, look, you have 20 years of this experience, like, and you did that for 20 years for a reason. You can't like just throw that away. Like that's throwing away a lot of valuable assets. So go back, look at that asset and those assets, and think about how that could help you in the context of what we're talking about right now, and how you can actually maybe partner with some of those people to bring some of this to life. And as soon as you start to think about that, and you think about it in a perspective of like, hey, as long as this person or entity has a similar set of beliefs or values or principles, and that's where it should always start, in my opinion, you can then start to say, we have a foundation that we could work off of. Now, what do we build on this foundation?
Yep. And your number one advice to go to market, I think you were telling me some things about don't go crazy. Do not plan everything out up front. Test it out. Is that what you're telling me the other day?
Build in public. Just build in
Build
public.
in public. That's the best advice for solos. And does that ring
That's the
true more
best
for
advice
solos
for
than anyone?
anyone. Yeah, anyone. It doesn't matter. I mean, building in public today gives you access to so much, because that's how you also build an audience as well, right? If you build in public, you're going to be the student, you're going to be the teacher, you will eventually build an audience. I mean, building in public is I think one of the purest forms of community-led growth. To me, that is community-led growth as you build in public.
Well, we're doing that right now. Actually, this is one of the first podcasts, if not the first, we're going to be releasing. And I'm building in public right here with Mark Kilens, the go-to-market expert, man from HubSpot Academy, Drift Communities, and it's an honor and pleasure. Thanks for having this cool conversation today, man. I hope we can have more.
Thank you, Joe. Yeah, best of luck.
All right, man. All right.